Russia's war in Ukraine is reaching a critical point. And I think we could soon hear some very terrible news. Now, I know for the first couple of months of this war, Russia's got smashed, but now it's regrouped. It's got a new overall leader. It's concentrated its forces, now focusing on capturing just Ukraine's east and most of its coast, expanding from the territory it already captured. That's with the stripes through it in this map, like the Crimea right down the bottom. Now, the orange parts are what it's now captured in the past few days, but the critical battles for Muriopol, you see that sort of bottom right, a city on the coast northeast of the Crimea. Muriopol is the key city to Russia being able to link up its captured areas. But for 50 days, Ukrainian soldiers there have held back the Russians, but they now hold just the industrial area of Azovstal, which is sort of industrial area that's got lots of places to hide, lots of tunnels, cellars. Russia is blasting that area to bits, even though thousands of refugees are hiding underground there. And there's not much left that's undamaged in that area, or in fact, in the rest of the city. And the Ukrainian troops say they can't last much longer.
Звернення до світу. Це може бути нашим останнім зверненням. В нас, можливо, залишились лічені дні або години. Угрупування противника десятки разів перебільшує нас. Вони мають панування у повітрі, в артилерії, в угрупуваннях, які діють на суходолі, технікою та танками. Ми ведемо оборону на одному об'єкті, на заводі, де знаходяться військові Маріупольського гарнізону та цивільні особи, які потрапили в пастку війни. Ми звертаємось до світових лідерів допомогти нам.
Now, Russian President Vladimir Putin, he desperately wants to announce some big victory in Ukraine by May 7. May 7 is when Russia holds its big annual parade to mark victory over Nazi Germany. And that has to be, for him, Mariupol. It'll be the only big city it has ever captured in this war. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is begging the world for more heavy weapons. So he needs these to push the Russians back, even as a shopping list.
We need heavy artillery, armed vehicles, air defense systems, and combat aircraft. Artillery, 155 millimeters. Artillery shells, 152 millimeters, as many as possible. Multiple launch rocket systems, Grad, Smersh, Tornado, or M142 HIMARS. Armored vehicles, APC, infantry, fighting vehicles, others, tanks, T-72 or similar tanks from the USA or Germany.
Joining me is General Jack Keane. He's a retired four-star general. He's a former Vice Chief of Staff of the US Army, now Chairman of the Institute for the Study of War. General Keane, thanks for your time. Looking at the map, it seems that Russia can come out of this war with what it at least can claim, to Russians at least, is a victory, a huge chunk of Ukrainian territory in the east and on the Black Sea coast. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, well, certainly their strategic objective now, obviously after having failed at their main effort to topple the capital city of Kyiv and also to get the government to surrender and put in a pro-Russian government, after that has miserably failed, I think their strategic objective certainly is to deny Ukraine the use of their southern coast, and that's the Sea of Azov and also the Black Sea. And to do that, they want to focus on the Donbass region, which, so our audience understands, they have been there, the Russians and the separatists, since 2014. And it's been contested and stalemated, where the Russians have controlled 1/3 of that region. Now they want to take the other 2/3 and establish a land bridge to Crimea once they seize the city of Mariupol. That is their objective. The Ukrainians are standing in the way. The Ukrainians cannot be underestimated after the success that they've had. But the Russians outgun and outman Ukrainians here, much as they did in the northern campaign. However, the Russian supply lines are much shorter because Russia is close by, and the Ukrainian supply lines go all the way back to Poland, where all the U.S. NATO equipment is coming through. But nonetheless, the Russians are exhibiting some of the same problems, Andrew, with poor command and control, poor morale, logistics not being what they should be, and they made some small gains but not significant gains so far in this offensive.
I'm hearing you very loud on the weaknesses still in the Russian army. It has, though, seemed to have changed tactics under its new overall commander. There are no risky advances now, no sort of, paratroop landings next to Kyiv or anything like that. And it's now blasting everything before they go in, which is something the Russians have done ever since World War II, of course. How can the Russians be stopped?
Yeah, well, certainly the Russians are using heavy aerial and artillery bombardment in preparations for those advances. And I think the way they can be stopped is the Ukrainians have got to have the weapons necessary to kill tanks, to kill armored vehicles. They need the counter battery radar, which they have asked for, and they're just beginning to get, so that they can shoot down the artillery. And how that works is when artillery fires, the radar picks it up almost immediately, and you can return fire within seconds to kill the very artillery tubes that are shooting at you. And that is crucial to the Ukrainians being able to succeed, because Russia has a preponderance of artillery. That is one of their methods in history of warfare, and it's very crucial here. The other thing is the Ukrainians have got skill and will, Andrew, and that's been manifested, and certainly their courage, and they have imagination and creativity. All that said, it is going to be a tough fight, and no one knows what the outcome here is going to be. It's just going to unfold in front of us.
You're quite right in saying, they've appealed for all that. I've showed the shopping list of what Zelensky wants. He made an appeal to Germany, he name-checked Germany. This shocks me. Look, I don't know whether you've got an insight into this, General, but Germany is the giant economy of Europe. Are you amazed that this country, unlike a number of others, has refused to send Ukraine heavy weapons? It says, well, we don't have enough for ourselves. Do you buy their excuses?
Well, it's a terrible excuse, particularly in the face of what Zelensky is facing in his military and his very desperate appeals, and also building on the success that he's achieved and the opportunity that's in front of him to actually deny the Russia this territory and to push them out. Look, Scholz, the Chancellor of Germany, did a good thing. He doubled his defense budget, and that was a good thing. And he's passed some equipment to the Ukrainians, but not to give them the tanks that they want and the long-range artillery that they want, and just shut that down makes no sense. Look, Germany has been very passive all through the Cold War. And coming out after the collapse of the Soviet Union, certainly they have let their military deteriorate. They have a very weak military, and it's going to take some time to get it back. The fact that they want to get that back is a very good thing, but I also appreciate you pointing a finger at what is taking place here, and it's pretty unsatisfactory, and they're not coming forward to help the Ukrainians here.
I find it absolutely astonishing that the Greens there, the Greens party, part of that coalition, they want to help Ukraine, whereas the main party, the government, they do not. I just find that unbelievable. That just says something. I wonder what the Russians have got on Germany or its leadership. By the way, can we end on this? We're almost like fighting to the last Ukrainian, I've got to say. They're bearing the brunt of this war, which I think has got significance for all Europe, if not the Western world. How important do you think it is that Russia is not just stopped, but defeated in Ukraine?
Yeah, well, what's happening in Muriopol is certainly an indicator of what we're dealing with here with the Russians. By the way, they have already made an announcement on 9 May, which is Victory Day for them in Moscow, celebrating the defeat of Nazi Germany. They intend to have a military parade in Muriopol celebrating their victory in Muriopol as an indication of the strength of the Russian military. But When I look at what's happening here and the opportunity that Zelensky has given us, Andrew, he and his military, it's an opportunity to crush the Russian army in Ukraine. What better deterrent does NATO have than that the army would be crushed and they wouldn't be able to even think about conducting a further-on attack into a NATO country for a number of years until they recovered from that kind of a debacle. That's the opportunity that's in front of us, and all NATO nations should see that as in their national interest to help the Ukrainians defeat the Russian military in Ukraine.
It's very interesting you point to that ambition to have a May 9 victory parade in Muriopol. I've already seen propaganda video coming from Russia of almost what you could see as a rehearsal, a tank column going through. They've got a few people, locals, by the side of the road, apparently welcoming the liberators. It seems to me a rehearsal for exactly what you say they're wanting for May 9 itself. General Jack Keane, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Yeah, good talking to you, Andrew. Thank you.